It's with a heavy heart that I regret to inform you the only decisive game of the Champions Chess Tour finals between Magnus Carlsen, Wesley So, set 1 was decided by a brain fart. Once again, there seems to be a lack of air quality control affecting the players here. Now, in case you're not aware of that one, well, Air Things are sponsoring this event. They've been closely monitoring air control. Have a listen to this by David Howell.
Shout out to Air Things for showing us the air quality out there in Toronto. Looks like perfect conditions for the players.
So thank goodness for Air Things. You know, I don't know how they coped in the 80s. Kasparov maybe suspected that Karpov just let one rip, but how to know for sure without a proper measuring device? Now into this game here, it's a great one in and of itself, decided by a brain fart, yes, which we'll come to, but first off, we've got high quality drama on the board. This is game 3, they're drawn the other 2, and it's the only decisive one, as mentioned, I think. It's been a long day, I'm trying to recall what I've said already. So e4 played here by Wesley So. Magnus goes c5. This is over the board chess. They do get some increment back per move. That's some extra seconds each move. Now we get knight f3, and Magnus dabbling once again, he goes a6. This is the O'Kelly variation, the 5th most popular move actually. It's not that obscure, but okay, you don't immediately fight for the centre, and now Wesley goes for the most punishing, aggressive line with bishop e2. That is not the most aggressive line. I think there's a reason why this is the 10th most popular move. But okay, it develops a piece. You're not going to get us on ESPN with moves like that though, Wesley. Now we get d6. Now the centre is taken by Wesley So. We get captures, and not the normal knight recaptures, but queen takes back. Wesley's going a little bit Magnus-esque because Carlsen's got this variation where he drops the queen to d2, not in exactly this move order, etc., but the rough theme, and then he goes b3, bishop b2, knight c3, long castle. Very interesting, aggressive line. But Wesley doesn't go for that one. He goes queen d3 instead. So okay, he wants to bring the bishop out here in combination with bringing a knight here. Now we get g6 from Magnus, so he's going for a dragon setup there. We get castles, bishop g7, breathing fire down the long diagonal, knight c3 starts to negate that bishop a bit, and after knight f6, we now get this immediate knight d5. The knight seizes that great outpost square. Magnus just castles, keeping the status quo in the centre, and after c3, very natural move, nice pawn structure, blunting the bishop, taking away knight jumps from this one. We get b5 expansion and bishop g5 setting up a positional threat because white wants to chop off this knight. If bishop takes back, then knight takes, shatter the structure, weak d6 pawn, and if after takes you take with the pawn, well again you've got this weak d6 pawn and you'd have a monster knight. So this is the reason for now seeing this trade. Pawn recaptures, Wesley's got the space, very nice, but Magnus finds a square for this one. We see an exchange, very logical, because you pull this bishop out of its little home. I think that's what fianchetto means in Italian, some kind of little home or something like that. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. And now Wesley's got fluid play here. He starts with h4, looking for h5, but you know, the f-pawn could run one day. His rooks are already connected. His bishops look nice. Compared to Magnus's position though, behind in development, rook's not connected. Pressure here, clamping pawn. How is he going to unravel? Well, he starts with bishop f5, we get queen d2, and now h5, important move, setting up the right pawn structure. You didn't want to allow that stuff. And now after bishop d3, this could get very dangerous, very fast for black, but this is why Magnus is world #1, right? He plays the excellent queen to d7. Now why is this so good? Well, after captures, which wasn't played, but say it was, queen recaptures, you're allowing bishop takes here. And most of us get to this right and we reject this variation on this basis. But here's the trick. You go bishop f4, hitting this queen, Queen d4 is now the best move, and then there's rook fe8. And what you've done by going bishop f4 is you've stopped the retreat of bishop to g5. At least if it's played, now after captures, queen takes, you've won your pawn back, no issues. And if you're not coming back to g5, well, where are you going? Say you go bishop f6, well, this is even worse. Now you're actually losing a piece. Rook e4, you know, queen moves. That one about to drop off, but hang on, then the rook would drop. Well, no, then there's these tricks here. Awesome stuff. You know, if king captures, you win the queen on d3. If you try and sidestep, get a bit smart, then there's bishop e5. Same threat of takes on h4, winning the queen. You're also threatening to win here. White can't survive all the threats. So a few long lines there, but it's just so cool how Magnus has seen that deeply that white can't actually get anything from this and winning the pawn. Amazing foresight from the former world champion. So rook ae1, Wesley rejects it all on that basis. Now we get rook fe8 from Magnus, and look at that, you know, in a few moves he's solved those problems, completed development, things are connected, rooks, etc. Rook e3 now from Wesley, preparing to double. Rook ac8, natural activation. After these come off, c4 is available for a rook lift. And after rook fe1 doubling, again instructive. Now Magnus takes. You know, the rook has left the f-file here. No longer then pushing this with the same force. So rook c4 from Magnus, g3 played, rook ec8 doubling, and now Wesley just misses his moment to try and seize an initiative. You know, there's different ideas. You can actually sack an exchange, win a pawn. It's interesting. f6 doesn't work, by the way, or the queen crashes through here. That was one idea. Or you can take here, drag this queen across, then f4, you know, the bishop can't move, you lose the queen. Now the computer says it's level after b4, and there's this kind of stuff going on, and you know, the lines go on, etc. But there were just these few ways that Wesley could have mixed things up, you know, tried to put Magnus under pressure. But he goes rook e4, just a bit timid, right? So king g7 now played, king g2, a5, and it's Magnus just starting to slightly squeeze now. You know, the evaluation bar ever so slightly ticking in his favour. So a3 keeps an eye on b4, we get rook 8 to c5, and the more pieces come off and so on, and we move towards an endgame, the more d5 actually is a weakness that needs to be looked after. So queen b7 could be on the cards, but that's why Wesley now takes some action. He goes f4, this rook takes here, rook recaptures, bishop drops back, bishop takes, Magnus takes with the pawn. Of course, you don't want to start walking the king out, running into queen d4 check. And now rook d4 from Wesley, and that is not a beautiful square, right? You know, just babysitting a pawn in the defense. Magnus goes rook c8, rook e4 back from Wesley. Is this an invitation for a draw? Rook c5. Is that what Anish Giri would play here if Wesley was playing him? And then they go back, and then they go here. This would be a fine addition to this exceptional book by Anish Giri. But no, not played. We see rook b8 from Magnus. He wants to fight. He doesn't care he's black. He prefers his position. And now king h2. A sign of a genius player or a terrible move? Mysterious king move, but it is the top engine move, and Wesley's definitely a serious player. So queen f5 now played by Magnus, and it sets up all of these b4 ideas. You know, this time if you get some kind of liquidation and rook coming across, well, the queen drops. These are the themes in the air, and that's why rook e3 played, offers this exchange, rook recaptures, and now very instructive, Magnus switches plans. You might think b4, most obvious move, right? But there's a great response for white. Again, test your endgame skills here because it's very instructive. Don't take the A pawn, capture towards the centre like you're usually taught, but actually here, capturing away is good. Not only because you created this outside passer in some lines, but here there's the very concrete rook b3, which you opened up when you captured with the c pawn. No time to take, or you lose the rook here. So this is one sample line, and yes, you swap pawn for pawn, but you've got the connected runners. White doing great. So, coming back, no b4. Magnus senses this is the time to go active on the e-file. So, rook d2 covers the invasion. Excuse me. g5 now played from Magnus, and it's an uncomfortable move to deal with. You know, if you take twice, well, you're messing up your pawn structure, helping blacks. The black king marches in. So, instead, king g2. We get takes on h4, pawn recaptures, and now rook e3. It's just so uncomfortable. You want to play king f2 and stop that rook from invading, kick it back, but then there's rook h3. The pawn drops. That's not a good one to lose. The h-pawn is running. So we see f5 played, good move, stops this king march up. You know, these two pawns make a full-on barrier. And now is setting up king f2, so king f8 was played. Now if king f2 was played. Now if Magnus does this one, which he didn't do, well, you've cleared this fourth rank with the pawn push to f5. You can cover h4. Sorry, losing my voice as you can hear. So, coming back here, we see rook e5 played instead. Magnus switching, going after these two pawns. b4 now on the board, and the computer hates this move, as you can see, but not because of how Magnus plays. It wants takes with check and then pawn a4, keeping these ones pinned down and targeting them in future. But Magnus takes, it's not the biggest fan, although black's still slightly better. Pawn recaptures and takes with check. So Magnus is a pawn up here, but they're doubled pawns. White's got space, more active king, so it's only a little bit better for black. It's not yet decisive. We get check, king f4, king e7 played, rook d4. We get a few shuffly moves here, and now great play by Wesley. He goes active with the rook. Rook d2, coming behind this pawn. Rook a7 check. The king drops back, and again, fantastic endgame play by Wesley. Kudos to him here. King f5. Go active. Munch this one, then munch this one, and this one, and this one, and kill Magnus. But okay, Magnus is too good to give white everything they want. He checks. The king drops back here. Now f5 check. King e3. Rook c2 hits that c pawn. Again, Wesley doesn't go for passive defense. He gets active with the king. It's good play. The computer gives this level. Rook c3. Now king takes on f5. Rook c4, targeting these two pawns here. Wesley now marches the king across. We get captures here. Rook b7 coming behind that passed pawn runner, and after rook b1, now the computer says king f6 or rook b8 gives it more level, but Wesley plays the very natural king takes pawn over there. Now it gives this a small advantage to black now after b4, king h6, but it says you have to go b3 here to stay slightly better. Okay, different game. But Magnus goes pawn to f5 here, and this is where the game swings back to full equality, but only if Wesley finds one move which he misses. And this is where rumour has it that Danny Wrench had just ordered a particularly smelly pizza covered in that stinky cheese, right? Now that went to the commentary area, but the waft of it, went up through the air vents into the playing area. Wesley must have just caught a sniff, threw him off, he's disorientated, bang, what does he do? Pawn h5. The pawn, black f pawn, is running to f4. Now he chases it, too late. That pawn is gone. Got his running shoes on. Wesley, complete brain fart, thrown by the stinky pizza. Now we get f2. It's going through. This is desperation. Check. Rook b7 check. King c8 played. Sorry, it's hard to keep a straight face on this stuff. Pawn h7. Now we get this final check. And here Wesley resigns the game because, if the king moves away, then this is something how the game could have ended. You mate the queen, you can give a check, but your rook drops. Okay, this is just a sample of how it could have finished. You're about to get mated. Oh, sorry. That's how the game finished. So this was the final position. So Magnus wins that set. He goes one up. They're back tomorrow. I'm actually out tomorrow evening, so I'm afraid I can't get a recap up on the night. I'll look to do it Sunday. Do subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Really helps me out. Check out the video on screen for another epic game, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.